I'm Luke Beard.
I'm Chris Green.
I'm Riley Gunter.
And I'm Nash Rainey.
And we are the Backups. All right, let's kick right into college football. Big week for college football, as always. The Wyoming Cowboys beat Colorado State. Nash, take it away.
I mean, there's only one thing to say, and Wyoming won the border war, baby. Go Cowboys. A very good win for a very good Wyoming team in a very big – this is basically Wyoming's one rivalry game. They don't really have an in-state rival. So the border war, it's a very good thing for them to win and just a fun game all around.
And, you know, Clemson, I don't want to say dominates Notre Dame, but they dominate Notre Dame 31-23. Never a doubt in my mind. Always had the Tigers winning this one. I did not pick the Tigers in my pick'em, but still had the Tigers winning it. All around, great play by Clemson. That one fumble by Moffa towards the end of the game after Hartman threw the pick had me a little worried. I was nervous at that moment because everyone on the hill was real pushed up on the barrier, and it happened. It was just hands on heads, panic. And then the defense bows up like they always do. Notre Dame couldn't move the football. Audric Estime did have a good game. He's a really good player. To me, he's probably the best back in college football. But, you know, you give that to a lot of guys. Blake Corum, Estime, Phil Moffa, the GOAT. Clemson had a good game, though. This is Clemson's best game I've seen all season. It felt like the team dominated more than the score says. Obviously a rough start to the second half. Cade Klubnik pick, which wasn't his fault, bounced off Bo Collins' hands. That's one you have to bring in. But pick, pretty much a 6. It went to the 1 yard line. I'm calling it a pick 6. But then Clemson, you know, they take it back. They never settled. Clemson kept moving the ball. It's the best special teams has looked. Even got a Cade Klubnik pooch punt. What do you have to say about it?
You know, it was a game that when I woke up that morning, I was like, I got a good feeling about it. Still didn't think it was gonna win, but I had a good feeling about the game. So I got there, I was like, okay, maybe we might score like 7 points. But the way those first 2 plays went, I was like, they just running right through us. It's about to be over with quick. And then they only got a field goal and we scored. I was like, okay, maybe we got a chance. And we kept scoring, so we got a chance to win now.
I would say,
sorry.
You keep going.
And also, every time they punched us in the mouth, we punched right back.
Mm-hmm. So. I would say from a safe standpoint now, when Jeremiah Trotter had the pick 6, you can safely say now, like, that's when we sealed the game away, although we didn't really.
Yeah.
But he arguably had the best game of his career this past weekend.
I agree.
And the fourth quarter, when it was just going back and forth, same area position for both teams. Every big third down, he was always the one making the tackles. It was just great defensive game as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, especially being in the stadium, this was a really fun game to watch. And I agree with you, Chris, where when we held them to a field goal and then we got a touchdown, I was like, we can make this a game. We can win this. And I think we played fantastically. Obviously, the opening of the second half wasn't what you wanted, but that we made that mistake and then we followed it up and scored right back. We didn't let them gain too much momentum. The only thing that really worried me was that last 10 minutes where we would get the ball, maybe get a first down if we were lucky, punt it to them, they get it on their 5, they do nothing with it, they punt it back. Did that 3 straight times. I thought it wasn't real at some point, but our defense did what they needed to do, and it was just a great game to watch, and I'm happy we won, and it was a good win.
Yeah, and you mentioned Trotter. Trotter's pretty much a shoo-in for a first-round pick now.
That's what I was saying.
More than likely the best linebacker in the draft, arguably with Barrett Carter possibly. There's a couple other guys in there. Don't want to get into them because this is Clemson football, and they're back. You got a really tough matchup this weekend against Georgia Tech, who is a super good football team. Haynes King has been one of the most exciting guys in college football this season. He's done a lot for that team, and if they keep scoring the way they're scoring, there's going to be a problem. But they haven't faced a defense like Clemson, where it doesn't seem Georgia Tech will be able to move the ball as well as they have. They don't have a great run defense. They're near the bottom in FBS football or Power 5 football. And if Clemson can take advantage of that, have Moffa continue to play the way he played. Dominic Thomas also had a great game. Very surprising. But he came out swinging. He was moving down the field for the Tigers. So that's still a good two-head backfield. Georgia Tech will be a rough game, but I think Clemson can pull it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nate Wiggins is going to make it a Heisman case this upcoming game. So
4 pick sixes inbound.
Be ready.
And then we get Texas defeating a really good Kansas State football team. Goes to overtime. When Texas goes to overtime, there's not much doubt this season, though, because this is a good Texas team. They had time to talk it over. They go to overtime. They win the game. I kind of expected it once I saw it hit overtime. I thought Texas did have a lead for a bit, and they let them storm back, but this Texas team is too good to lose in overtime against Kansas State.
Yeah, I would say, especially since this is just a game that kind of really shows that Texas knows how to keep control and maintain and win when they need to. I was a little not worried, but I thought maybe Kansas State could make something happen, especially when I saw the game go into OT. But Texas proved why they're a top 10 team in the country.
Yeah. Army defeating Air Force comes as a shocker. An undefeated Air Force team. I haven't really kept up with either of these teams. I do enjoy some Service Academy football. There's always something crazy going on in those games. Someone you don't expect to wins it every year, it feels like. But if you're Air Force, I don't know really where you go from here. Obviously, they have already made a bowl. It felt like the undefeated season was like the big thing for them in college football right now. And losing that hurts. I still think they're a really good football team. I don't think they have much to worry about. They'll probably win their bowl game, I'd expect. But, Nash, you're the Midwest football guru.
I think especially going into this game, Air Force was probably one of, if not the best team in the Mountain West, or at least they looked like it. And, obviously this wouldn't hurt. This wasn't a conference game, but this is more of just a surprise to not only lose to a 20-point loss to another Service Academy, but also Army, was 2-6 going into this game. It's kind of baffling. You wouldn't, like a team like this, a team that's ranked, that's undefeated, a group of 5 team, you don't really expect them to drop that kind of game.
Yeah.
Then Georgia beats Missouri 30-21. It's a lot closer than the score says. This game, just a rough pick by Brady Cook at the end of the game, right to a lineman, kind of sealed it for him. But this was a good matchup for Georgia. They really needed this win. It kind of proved that they are still the top dog because Missouri's a really good football team.
Yeah.
And Georgia beating them relatively soundly, I guess, kind of shows that they're not this slouch-off team that everyone's calling them this year just because they won some titles. People think they're the big deal. They are still the big deal. They're the headline of SEC football. They're the headline of college football, and they're here to stay.
Yeah.
Before this game, it was people like, oh, Missouri gonna beat them this year. They almost beat them last year. Well, New Year, same result. For me, it was never in doubt. I knew it would be a close game, but I knew Georgia would still come out on top. I just felt like they're the better team. Even without Brock Bowers, they still stat.
I guess I kind of side with most of the media. I still think they're a top dog this year, but I think out of the past, let's just say 3 years, this is the most vulnerable.
I agree.
Because I know their playoff percentage. I think they're almost under 50% to make the playoffs, which I feel like as a Georgia fan would be a little concerning, saying that you're undefeated right now, and I believe they're still AP top. They're still one in AP.
They still won an AP. They're just number 2. Yeah.
But I think they should still make the playoff because I'm assuming they'll play Alabama in the SEC championship, and so that will be a good game to see.
Only truth is what happens if Alabama beats them. Does Georgia drop and they slide in another conference champion that has a loss, or does Georgia stay in?
Yeah,
that's kind of the question about that.
I feel like with the record that they have and how they've been staying as number 1 for consecutive weeks, I feel like they still should make it, at least at number 4 spot.
Yeah, but the college football playoff does really like to look at strength of schedule.
Yeah,
and Georgia does not match up well there.
Yeah.
However, I agree with you. They should stay in. Yeah. My only thing is we've seen the playoff committee do wild things before, and I wouldn't be shocked if that's one of them dropping Georgia out. I don't think they should, but I think they could. But that's also assuming that Alabama wins out and Georgia wins out too. Yeah. So we can't make that assumption. But if that is to happen, I'm intrigued to see where that goes.
A big game against Ole Miss this weekend.
Yeah, huge game. That's kind of their regular season on the line right there. And then they have to go into Neyland. So Georgia has some tough matchups coming up.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State defeats Oklahoma 27-24, killing their playoff hopes. Oklahoma looked like they had it. They beat Texas. Texas had demolished Kansas, and it's like, well, Oklahoma's going to probably do the same thing. Kansas beats them, and not really closely. I guess it was close, but it was another game that felt a little farther than the score was saying, and that's still a very good Kansas Jayhawks team. But Oklahoma State, they lose to South Alabama, and it's like, well, season's done, Mike Gundy's team can't do it, then Mike Gundy does what he does and he beats teams.
Yeah.
Mike Gundy's a guy who, he's one of my favorite coaches in college football because he is a personality. He loves his team and he will do anything for them to win. And, he was saying it last year that Oklahoma was running from Oklahoma State going to the SEC. Clearly he's right. I don't think he's actually right. I think it's actually a good business move on Oklahoma's part. But, I mean, if you look at the final matchup, he's not wrong in Bedlam.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
I mean, a big Bedlam win, and especially considering the season that Oklahoma State's having, I really thought, Oklahoma coming off this loss to the Jayhawks, I thought they're going to kind of refocus, center themselves, and just destroy this Oklahoma State team that I'm kind of low on. But, I mean, Gundy's proven me wrong. He's proven that he can still go out and win games against big teams, and, to do it in this kind of series, especially considering it's the last Bedlam, it's impressive.
Yeah.
And I have to give respect where respect's due. Oklahoma State is much more confusing, but probably a better team than I thought they were.
Then Washington defeats USC 52-42, another game that's not as close as the score's saying. Washington, it felt like Michael Penix just picked them apart, as he does every team. But, USC fires their defensive coordinator after this. A lot of talk is centered around Caleb Williams right now, though. There's that picture of him crying after the game. He's emotional.
Yeah. Like, if you're a competitor, you gon' cry.
Exactly.
People that be like, oh, he was crying. He's soft. No, you never did anything competitive.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. A lot of people are, dogging on him for crying. That's a big game for the USC. That's a huge loss.
He gave that program everything.
Yeah, he's the guy on that program of the last, honestly, 20 years. And they were a great program in the last 20 years. But he's been one of the top guys. Him and Reggie Bush are,
He brought
some of the first names.
Made them USC relevant again.
Yeah. They were, after years of irrelevancy, he pushed them back into it. I mean,
I just love that USC offense. I don't know if you guys saw the delayed flea flicker. That I've kind of been a Caleb Williams hater, but after watching that,
it's a beautiful play.
That was a beautiful pass and everything.
Beautiful play. Lincoln Riley has a great mind, though. Great offensive mind.
I mean, this game was, Washington looked great, and I think they've been looking great, and I think, Phoenix has just been fantastic this whole year, and I think there's also something to say. USC, I think, is just they should have fired their defensive coordinator probably a few weeks ago.
At the beginning of the season, they should have did.
Like, this is a team that can regularly put up 40 points, and you don't know they're going to win, which is something crazy to say, I've seen people on Twitter remarking that, college football is a crazy sport because teams like Iowa and USC exist where they're polar opposites. One team's going to score 40 every game, the other's going to score 10, and they somehow both have winning records.
And then they're going to both match up next year, or they'll both be in the same conference next year in the Big Ten. Some of these Pac-12 teams coming into the Big Ten West. I was just having a conversation about it, actually. I don't know what's going to happen there because it's great defenses against really great offenses. And it's going to be real funny seeing if Iowa scores like 10 points in a game and they somehow hold a team like a Washington or a USC to 10-2. It's just going to be shocking, but I don't see these teams being held to that low of points. But we'll see what happens. I think this will be fun, moving Pac-12 into the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And then Alabama defeats LSU 42-28. Game was pretty much over when there was that blatantly dirty hit against Jaden Daniels. It was dirty. It should have been targeting. You're supposed to protect the quarterback. That is the rule for these refs, and I've seen targeting called for a lot less.
Yeah.
Clemson has had targeting called for a lot less. LSU has had, all these teams have had targeting called for a lot less. It seems like Alabama doesn't get targeting called for some of the nastiest hits I've ever seen. This is not a dirty team by any means. I think Alabama's a well-coached team, and they know what they can get away with. I'm not saying anyone favors them.
Yeah.
But they have had some calls go their way.
Yeah.
I think Alabama is a good football team. I think they're a great football team. They were going to win this game, maybe not no matter what, but as soon as Jaden Daniels went out, it was done.
Yeah.
People were like the game was over at that point. It wasn't. The game was not over at that point.
It was a close game.
LSU was moving the ball.
Yeah.
They're going to be within a score. And your Heisman runner-up, third-place contender gets smoked in the head and can't get off the field.
Yeah.
That's a dirty hit. By the book, it was a dirty hit. He was high. It's hard to tell if he led with the crown of his helmet. He wrapped him. I saw him wrap him. the crown of his helmet still crushed into Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say about that. But Alabama had a good win. They are the best team in the SEC West, and I wouldn't be shocked if they do make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I believe Jalen Milroe had 4 rushing touchdowns against LSU. I mean, good for him. I was a doubter of Jalen Milroe at the beginning of the season, but it's like every week he just keeps proving me wrong.
Yeah, Bama keep letting him use his feet like how they let him use them this weekend. They might be in the natty. I can see it.
I feel like this is a very good Alabama team, and I find it confusing because I feel like we see every other week there's some targeting call or something like that everyone says, what are they doing? This is egregious. Like, this is not a targeting thing. And then you see something like this, and it's like, by kind of textbook definition, is
how is it not a targeting
nothing's
call?
getting called. It's frustrating, and I think it kind of overshadows what was a very competitive, very entertaining game to watch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's frustrating as a fan of neither team, and honestly as a hater of both. It's a bit frustrating to see, but I'm just really excited to see what this Alabama team does come, conference championship and maybe even playoff time. I mean, I feel like this is a team that could absolutely make a push like that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a certain Rainey that's not going to be happy with my statements about the targeting call either. I'm sure we'll be hearing from him soon. And then Arizona defeats UCLA 27-10. This is a good Arizona football team.
Yeah.
They had some rough losses early. They've beaten 3 ranked teams back to back to back. I believe they are now a ranked team. I know I ranked them in my poll.
Yeah.
I think like 24, 25 AP. It's a good football team, though. And Arizona has historically been a pretty good football team. They've had very good years.
Yeah, they had a lot of down years in recent, but the program change is having a big turnaround now.
Yeah, they're doing a good job moving with change.
Yeah.
They are adapting, and they have overcome a lot of obstacles.
Yep.
And beating UCLA by 17 is a big one for them.
Especially considering this makes them bowl eligible for the first time since 2017.
Yep.
So it's, to actually be able to go to a bowl game after it's been so long, especially considering the past few years where this team has really not won a lot of football games. It's been a remarkable turnaround, and I think that they've been a fun team to watch. I mean, they almost beat USC a few weeks back, and I think they're maybe a bit better than, not like best in the Pac-12, but I think they're a bit better than everyone sees them as.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the Colts are moving into Week 9 of the NFL. I forgot to segue. The Colts beat the Panthers. It's just become a tale of who do the Panthers lose to next and by how much. They do have a win. They are a 1-win football team, and that's actually very exciting for the Panthers as they're not the worst team in football history. And I feel like that's a very significant outcome for the season. I would say they have a great pick, but they don't have their pick. So the Bears have a great pick. The Bears, who are having a better season than the Panthers, who got the number 1 pick.
Barely.
Just so you remember that.
Yeah.
I know you were mulling over that trade when it happened. You weren't very excited about it then. Clearly, you were right. Seems like you're the same way with Christian McCaffrey trade, though. What do you have to say about the Panthers? I just want to hear this.
I've been watching Carolina Panthers football since I moved to North Carolina in the summer of 2013, and I can confidently say that this is the worst Carolina Panthers football team I have ever watched. And it's depressing, and I think there's just so many things wrong with this organization. I think that the owner's an issue. I think that it's obviously that going into this season, it's going to take time for this team to develop. And I don't think we can count out Bryce Young. I will say, though, throwing 3 touchdowns on Sunday, 2 of them to the wrong team, not very encouraging. But I believe in this football team, and, not having our first-round pick for next year sucks, and only winning 1 game so far sucks. But I'm going to keep watching because
just trust the process.
Just got to trust the process. That's all I can say.
Then the NFL went to Frankfurt over the weekend. The Chiefs defeating the Dolphins, dominated the first half. And then Dolphins kind of started coming back, but this is a good Chiefs football team. They are still the upper echelon of NFL football. The Dolphins haven't beaten a
good team,
above 500 team in how long.
They like the Vikings from last year. Like, they beat like bad teams and then go against a good team. They do none of that.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems when they run into a winning team that has a bit of a better defense, that's when the wheels, not fall off, but I think there's a clear trend here where when a team actually has some playmakers on defense and maybe a bit better coaching, they don't really seem to pull out any wins.
No. Yeah, they haven't. I can't remember what it was. I was reading it earlier. I think they're 6-3 in the season, I believe.
Yeah, 6-3. Yeah.
And their 6 wins have been against under 500 teams, but 3 losses have been over 500 teams. They haven't beaten an over 500 team in a very long time. I can't remember how many days it is now. It's been a while.
Last season since
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move to the Texans defeating the Buccaneers. Texans team that lost to the Panthers last week. And then, coming back, bouncing back against another NFC South team, the Buccaneers. This is a really good Texans team. Maybe not really good, a good Texans team. They are a lot better than people thought they would be.
And if they had a better record, I feel like C.J. Stroud, people would be saying C.J. Stroud the MVP. Like, the way he's been playing football lately.
He's by far the rookie of the year, and he is putting up MVP numbers. He's quietly having.
yards and 5 touchdowns. When the last rookie you seen do something like that?
I don't think anyone's ever done
I
it.
don't think a rookie ever did.
That was the rookie single game rookie record.
And he was the number 2 pick.
Somehow he was the biggest steal of the draft
At number 2, yeah. I mean, he has all that a number 1 pick has. He has everything that looks like a number 1 pick should have. There were rumors the Panthers were going to take him number 1, and Nash was very anti-C.J. Stroud then. He didn't want him. He was like, we have Bryce Young. Bryce Young's my guy. And then Bryce Young's been very solid, and I think he'll grow into it. I guess grow is not the best term, but I think he'll move into it. And but I do think C.J. Stroud's by far the best player out of this draft. He's just a fantastic playmaker.
Also, when we think back to last year when we were talking about the draft, there was that IQ test, and he scored the lowest on round 1. I was talking bad about him.
Yeah.
That's just C.J. Stroud's proved me wrong this season. Adds on to my list of such as Furman Gate that happened last year.
Anthony Richardson.
And
AR.
Anthony Richardson.
Maybe you shouldn't be a draft analyst. Maybe during draft season you need to fake sick, and we'll come in
They
here.
go into
and
hibernation for draft season.
Yeah.
You can go rest up.
Kind of like the Panthers football season.
Yeah. I mean, I see this as, especially when we look back on the test he took, I see it almost like that infamous Cardale Jones tweet where he's not here to play school. He's here to play football.
Yeah.
He's not here to take tests. He's here to play football. And, I mean, he's very clearly playing very good football. I'd love to have a rookie quarterback like that on my team.
The thing is, he won't have nobody to throw it to if he was on your team. So,
Adam Thielen.
I'll run through these last games real quick on our slate. Vikings beat Falcons 31-28. Packers beat Rams 20-3. We can talk about this one. So we'll skip over that Falcons game. Josh Dobbs comes in and just dices up the Falcons. We all know what happened.
that's Dobbs' legacy.
Josh Dobbs is a guy I've been high on since he came out of college. I think he was great at Tennessee, and I really liked him, and I was hoping he'd land somewhere where he could do something like this, and he did. And I'm glad he did, because he could honestly be a starting quarterback in the NFL. This is not a guy he's not a loser. He's not a guy who should be a backup. He should be a starter. He won games with the Cardinals. Kyler Murray wouldn't have won those games with the Cardinals. Josh Dobbs is by far the best backup quarterback in the NFL, and to me, he's a top 30 starting quarterback in the NFL, depending on how you look at it. He never threw a pass to any of these guys. They had to learn his cadence right before he got in, and he diced up the number 6 defense in the NFL. This kid is not kid. He's a lot older than me. This guy is a really good football player. And I'm tired of the Josh Dobbs disrespect that I've been seeing for so long. He's here, he's back, he's present, and he's going to win some football games for the Vikings. They're now a playoff team.
Yeah.
My Vikings to the Super Bowl prediction is looking great right now in Josh Dobbs' hands. We'll move to Packers-Rams. 20-3. Chris, I'll let you take this one. I did not watch this game.
Oh, yeah, I didn't watch the game either. Yeah. But it was a good game from us. But I mean, Jordan Love showed some improvement from what I saw. It looked like he's starting to come together as a starting quarterback. So that's good. I just want to see more improvement by us as the season goes on. So yeah.
All right, Eagles beat Cowboys 28-23. Sorry, Riley.
I don't remember. No, I knew this was happening.
So the Eagles are by far the best team in the NFC, right?
Yeah,
This is something I think we finally have
Sure.
come to realize, that them and the Niners are the 2 teams that are at the top. Sadly, your Cowboys they keep
Not my
falling.
Cowboys.
But Jalen Hurts is still a guy who I could see winning an MVP.
I think he's the MVP currently.
Yeah, right now I could see him winning the MVP
playing very
especially,
well.
but he has MVPs in his future.
Yeah.
This guy is the future of the Eagles. I remember they were thinking about trading him a couple years ago, right before he got the start.
Yeah.
Very clearly, they made the correct decision
Yeah,
by
I
not
know.
doing that.
And I mean, I don't know if it's okay to not drop his name on him, but I remember when they drafted Jalen Hurts, EDP was very angry about that, and you know,
EDP was wrong.
A lot of I think fans were a bit emotional about that, but I feel like this Eagles team they're playing fantastically, best team in the NFC. I kind of see them as, the precursor to next year's Panthers, but I'm also crazy and delusional. So the reality is that this is a very good football team with a lot of good football players, and I think that I could absolutely see them winning the NFC. I mean, there are other teams, some in California, who might pose a challenge, but, as there are no fans of such teams, we'll never really know how good they are. So I think this is probably the best team in the NFC, to be honest.
And let's move to the Premier League. I'll let everyone talk about their team real quick. Nash, take it away. Crystal Palace beat Burnley 2-0. How we feeling?
Okay, classic Burnley game. We lost. Wasn't very competitive. Wasn't very close. On to the next one.
All right.
For me, I just want to thank Luis Diaz for saving us from being part of probably one of the biggest upsets in Premier League history. Like, people have been like, oh, they had a draw with Luton, but you also got to give credit to Luton. They played well that day. Like, we weren't playing well, but they came to play.
Yeah.
You got
It was sad to watch on the ESPN app as I saw Luton up 1-0, and then it's like 90 plus 5. Like 95th minute, it's in the bag, and then I just see Liverpool 1, and I was just like,
what, tied? Yeah.
This close.
And I do want to say I am praying for Luis Diaz. Very sad thing going on with his father right now. And I do hope they can get him to safety. And, great for Luis Diaz for, powering through and playing it. I have immense amounts of respect for him for doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping, they can find his father.
Yeah.
Then let's move on to Brighton. We draw against Everton, and that was me and Chris talking. Last time we filmed, we were saying that it was an easy win. Apparently it's not, and it's a little frustrating when I wait till the 80th minute for us to score the equalizer, which was an own goal, but after watching the replay, Matoma did all of the work for it. But it's just sad to see that we're drawing against every single team we play, and we lost to Man City, and that was the only loss we've had this month, at least, which helps. But I just want to see wins.
Yeah, it definitely hurt when it definitely hit different when you tie with a little dude from across the street, Everton, man. It hit different.
At least we don't tie with Luton Town, though.
Yeah,
and on the table, man.
Arsenal has a rough game. Loses to Newcastle 1-0. It happens. Everyone loses. Newcastle's a good football team or soccer team. Oh no, they've gotten me.
It's happened.
They're a good soccer team, but immense respect to Newcastle. Good game. And then Chelsea, probably the premier club of the Premier League. They're a world-class club. They have great fans, hard-hitting, or not hard-hitting, but hard-working.
Yeah.
They beat the number one team on the table at the time, 4-1. Man City's obviously taking their spot now, but Chelsea's back.
I think what helped is they got young Kippa back from being on loan to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Which helps.
Yeah.
And it's just what also helps is when Tottenham gets 2 red cards, of course, they're going to be 2 players down, which leads to more open opportunities. As I can't remember his name, but he scored a hat trick against Tottenham. But honestly, it doesn't mean much to this. We can't really tell much from this Chelsea team after that game. They're still Chelsea. At least they're top 10, Chelsea. But they're still Chelsea.
Future Real.
This reminds me of another Chelsea score, too. They beat Burnley 4-1 in October. So, interesting. Let's move on to the NBA. So we have a good Rookie of the Year race between Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren. I still think Wembanyama is
I think
he's the guy to win it right now. People are arguing since Chet's the third option on his team that he should be getting more votes.
Yeah.
But Wemby's stats he's statistically better right now.
Yeah.
And it's Chet's second season.
Yeah.
It's a Ben Simmons situation where he was injured, and I do think he deserves to be in the race for it. I'm not disregarding Chet Holmgren at all. I think he's a great player. I think he's one of the best young guys in the league already. But, he's had a whole season to work with NBA trainers. Of course he's going to be playing like this.
Yeah.
And I feel like we knew Chet would be playing like this just when he was drafted because he's a good player.
Yeah.
This kid's a good player. And, Wemby, the same way, is also a very good player. These 2 guys are going to be great. These are the next faces of the NBA, them with, the Tatums, the Doncic's, the Trae Youngs, Anthony Edwards, all these young guys are going to move up together, and I feel like, Wemby and Holmgren are going to move past some of these guys. I already think Wemby has moved past some of those guys.
Yeah.
So,
I think especially with the amount of hype that Wemby's had going into this season, I think if they played exactly the same, he'd still get that. I feel like Holmgren would have to play way better than him to get that kind of look. Which, I mean, I'm excited that we have two young players like this that we can watch. See the future of the NBA.
Bring rivalries back to the NBA.
Yeah, this feels like it could end up being another LeBron Carmelo situation with the Rookie of the Year, where everyone's going to say, well, he didn't deserve to win it, even though they had virtually similar or the same stats.
Yeah.
But we'll see. And then James Harden finally gets his trade to the Clippers. Do y'all think this does anything for the Clippers' playoff hopes and their championship hopes?
I'm going to tell you how this is going to go. Either Kawhi, Paul George is going to get hurt. And we seen how Russ and Harden played on the Rockets. They did good in the regular season, the first half of the regular season. In that second half, when they got into the bubble, that was some of the worst basketball I've ever seen in my life, especially when they played the Lakers.
What's the bubble, though?
Yeah.
A lot of people had some. The bubble was magic.
But a lot of people had some good basketball in there, too.
The bubble was tomfoolery.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, no, I don't think this.
And also, I think Harden made his debut last night, if I'm not mistaken. They pretty much lost in a blowout to the Knicks. But
I believe it was his first loss. After being traded, it was his first loss. Debuted on the Knicks team.
Yeah.
Well, it's the fifth time it has to happen to someone.
Yeah.
Jeez. And then college basketball's back. Huge upset. Night one. JMU, the best sports school in America right now. They're beating everyone. Upset number 4. Upset number 4, Michigan State. Izzo, what's going on, man? You can't lose to JMU. His nephew is one of JMU's assistant coaches. Found that out, thought that was neat. But, I mean, go Dukes. That's all I can say. Go Dukes. They're cooking.
That's all you really can say in this situation. I mean, crazy.
Close game.
Yeah.
Very good game. Very fun to watch. Good, well-contested game. The Dukes pulled out. Seems like they pulled out every game they've played so far.
Yeah.
And then Clemson basketball's so back. We are here. It is time. The Great Pit was rocking.
It's back.
Death Valley 2, Little John, loud. We're back. Clemson beats Winthrop. It was expected. I don't really have much else to say.
Yeah.
PJ Hall looked great. Ian Shufflin surprised me, very pleasantly surprised me. Had a very good game. He was shooting the ball well. He was moving the ball well. He looked very good.
Yeah.
And even the transfers made some noise. Jack Clark, I believe is his name, from NC State. He was hitting threes, and he looked really good out there. He looked like he fit the system. Joe Girard had a slow game, but there's a reason he was so highly touted. And he is a very good player. And it's your first game in the new uniform. You're playing with new guys you've never played a competitive game with before. It's going to be difficult. But he did look well. I mean, he was passing the ball well. He understood what was going on. He looked really good on defense. Clemson's defense is what's going to carry them through a lot of games this season.
I mean, I was impressed. Great Pit was rocking, and I think my main takeaway is just this is a deep roster. This is a team that has a lot of guys who can play really well, and I think I'm excited to see how we play the rest of this season.
Let's flip over to the women's basketball side of things. Number 20, Colorado, upsets number 1, LSU, who clearly was not the number 1 team because 20 Colorado is a very good team. I mean, there's a reason they're ranked.
Yeah.
Right? They have a lot of good players, good playmakers. I know Deion Sanders' daughter is on the team. She didn't play, but she's on the team. She played at Jackson State last year. But this is a good Colorado team, and I think they were underranked coming into the season. I know in my rankings, I think I had them like 21, 22. And I clearly was wrong. I shouldn't have put them there. I think I also had LSU number 1, so I was yet again clearly wrong. But this LSU women's basketball team, they have a lot of transfers. They transferred in 2 All-Americans that you're trying to fit into the lineup. It's going to be difficult to do that in the first game. But losing by 20 in the way they lost does not look very good on the national champions. That is a rough look.
No, it don't.
Starting the season off.
But it seemed like Deion bringing all the changes to the athletic department at Colorado, huh?
He's bringing all the swagger back. Colorado's back. And we don't have it on here, but the Lady Cox, huge win huge win by, I think it was 171 over Notre Dame. They are the best team in college basketball, in women's college basketball. The Lady Gamecocks never get the respect they deserve, I feel like, until later into the season. And, it pains me to say it. But Dawn Staley's the best coach in women's college basketball. I don't think they had a single starter return, and they beat a really good Notre Dame team by 30. This is huge. I mean, it's going to be a huge matchup, Clemson women's basketball versus the Lady Gamecocks. I think they beat us by 60 last year.
Yeah.
And we play them soon, play them coming up soon. And I'm scared because I know how good the Lady Gamecocks are. I went to a couple of their games last year. They're very good environment.
I believe there's a highlight reel. I want to say it's one of their new freshmen. Had the drive to the goal. I was amazed by that.
I mean, they're one of the most physical teams in women's basketball, if not the most physical team, and they have a lot of athletes. What's her name? I know who you're talking about. She had 18 points, and young freshman guard. She looked great. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's going to be the next star of South Carolina women's basketball.
Like, as a Carolina Gamecocks hater, it's just something you got to admit, this team's for real.
Yeah.
And they've been for real for years. I mean, this is
not new.
Carolina's taken over UConn as the premier team in women's basketball.
Yeah.
And that's, no disrespect to Gene Auriemma. I think he's a great coach. But Dawn Staley's the best coach.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to beat someone who played the sport like she did, played at a high level like she did, and knows the game really well.
Yeah.
And that's who Dawn Staley is. She knows women's basketball. And she's probably the best mind in women's basketball, probably history, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
Obviously, I do really enjoy women's college basketball. I think it's one of the more fun sports to watch, to go to. The crowd's always fun. The players always like to interact with the crowd. And it's just a really cool atmosphere, and I think the Gamecocks have the best atmosphere out there.
Yeah.
So, we're playing them soon. I'm scared because I've seen them dismantle teams before, but I think this is a much better Clemson women's basketball team.
Yeah.
Let's take it to overtime. Chris, take us away.
I just want to give a special shout out to Scotty Barnes. He's been looking like coming along as a franchise player this season, like averaging 22, shooting 51% from the field, 42% from the three, 10 rebounds a game, 6 assists, two blocks a game. I mean, this offseason, after the slump he had in his sophomore season, went to the offseason, worked out, got better, and he's starting to come along.
Really?
Yeah.
So mine, Ballon d'Or, the whole ceremony was last week, and the Copa was. Copa is the best player who was under 21, and Jude Bellingham won that, and it's no surprise. Right now, he's one of the best soccer players in the world right now, I believe. And then Messi won the Ballon d'Or, and at first I was like, yeah, Messi deserved it. But when you think about it, if you take his entire World Cup performance out of it, he doesn't deserve it. I would say Haaland deserves it this past year over anyone after winning the treble.
Yeah.
But
I've looked more into it. I agreed at first. But typically the World Cup winner does get the Ballon d'Or. It's very
Like the World Cup, a big thing.
Yeah. And typically the winner of it does, like the leader of the winner of the team.
Yeah.
And the amount of pressure Messi had on him going into this World Cup, this is more than likely his last World Cup he'll ever play in.
Yeah.
And, no one thought they were getting it done this year. Everyone had, the odds were stacked against him, which is rare for an Argentina team.
Yeah.
And Messi, played one of the best World Cups ever. He was scoring. He passed the ball well, which he has done routinely. And it doesn't shock me that he won it. He deserved it. Haaland also deserved it. I wish you could split it, but you can't.
Yeah.
And like Messi said, Haaland will win some.
Yeah.
Haaland will probably be close to Messi's record by the end of his career. He'll get near that 8 mark. Mbappe, those two are going to be going back and forth. It's going to be Messi and Ronaldo all over again, and it's scary to see where that's going to go because those are two of the best talents you see in all of sports right now.
Now we can officially say that MLS players won a Ballon d'Or.
more than the Premier League
You were waiting to
has
say
right
that
now.
one, weren't you?
I was sitting on that one. Yeah. No, this is the new Premier League, honestly. But going into my overtime, as we've talked about before, JMU is a great sports school. They beat UCF in soccer. They beat MSU in
Number one
basketball.
UCF.
And they have a 9-0 football team. I think it is a travesty that they are not allowed into postseason play. And I am just shouting them out and demanding that the NCAA allow them to play in a bowl game because this is getting ridiculous.
The only people that are against JMU playing in the bowl game is the NCAA.
And it's looking more likely that they will end up getting a spot because if I can't remember what it is, if there aren't enough teams that are bowl eligible, which it doesn't look like there will be, JMU and Jacksonville State get the first 2 bids to the bowls. But I know JMU just sent in a letter to the NCAA requesting them to get the postseason privileges, which they should have.
They should.
They're the best team in their conference.
And it's also not fair to the seniors that
No.
won't get to play in the
Not at all.
Yes.
It's not fair to anyone there.
Yeah.
Because this is one of the best, like the most fun, just best teams in college football.
Right.
Obviously, not playing the competition levels that a lot of other teams are playing, but I could see them matching up against the Power 5 teams, which they've done. They beat Virginia, who's not a great Power 5 team, but
It's still a Power 5
team.
Still.
a Virginia team that has a win over a top 10 opponent.
Right.
So, say what you want about JMU. This team is legit.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about Amanda Butler getting her 300th win. Clemson women's basketball head coach. It's her, I believe, her 17th year, maybe 18th year as a head coach, and she has made the postseason 13 times of those 18 or 17. I can't remember off the top of my head now. But she has a great track record as a coach. She's done a fantastic job with Clemson women's basketball. I feel like she's getting a lot of good recruits. She's done well bringing new people in. I know they're coming out with that Clemson Plus story about the graduate who didn't think she had another year of eligibility, but they found out she did, so she's coming back. I just think that's a cool moment between a coach and a player. And I think Amanda Butler is a great coach.
Yeah.
I think she's done really well for the women's basketball program here, and I believe she will do well for years to come.
Yeah.
So I think that's all we have. We went a little overtime, as we always do. We want to thank y'all for watching, and we will see y'all soon.